hotties, proxies, and investigators. I hope you remembered your anti-corruption serum because we have to go deep into the bowels of Hollow Zero to find the crystal door so that we can time travel all the way back to the 7th century BCE to find the foundational literature that inspired Zenless Zone Zero. The first thing I would like to talk about would be the 7 Apkallu or the 7 Abgal, which is translated as the 7 Sages of Sumer. I think that they're so deeply intertwined with the 7 Void Hunters that we really should look at the incantation found on 4 tablets called the Bit Meseri and the lore teaser video. So please bear with me and listen to them side by side, starting with the lore teaser.
Eridu's founding report. Key players in the suppression of the catastrophe.
First, the 3rd generation head of the Hoshimi family who took down the Exaltist Overseer. Next, Lady Sunbringer, the former CEO of Marcel Group, who eradicated the Hive Lord Hollow in the sky. Then the ace of the investigation guild, Leader Joyous, the one who went through the Divine Maze and created the standard for Hollow exploration routes. Colonel Vike, Lieutenant Colonel Dan of the Guard of Staves, and the leader of the Falkenhayn mercenary troop. They alone pushed the Dark Wall 37 kilometers back.
To commend these 7 heroes' deeds, the mayor established a new title of honor, Void Hunter. They were the hunters of disaster, the defenders of the city.
Professor Iirc, the founder of Helios Academy, responsible for discovering the common characteristics of Hollows, entered Hollow Zero to seek out the truth. As of the time this document was sealed, Iirc had yet to return from Hollow Zero.
This document is from Eridu's time. That professor's been missing for an entire era.
Yuana, who made the designs of heaven and earth perfect. Uniduga, who was endowed with great wisdom. Enmeduga, whose fate was favorable. Enmegalama, who was born in the house. Enmebulunga, who grew up in the meadows. Ananlilda, the exorcist of Eridu. Utu-Abzu, who ascended to heaven. The 7 of them, the shining carps, the carps of the sea, the 7 sages, who emerged from the river, who keep the designs of heaven and earth in order.
To see the profound connections between the Apkallu in Akkadian culture and the Abgal, the myth starts with humans bumbling around in the city of Eridu, and the god of Eridu, Enki, wanting to guide them, so he bestows the gift of the 7 Abgal upon them. We can also see in the Sumerian king list that each of the cities has a patron Abgal. With all of this information presented, I know who I think out of the 2 groups, the Abgals and the Void Hunters, who correlates with who, with the roles they play, how they act, all that stuff. But I'd like to hear from you. Who do you think matches up with who? I would also like to discuss the map, specifically how the chasm most definitely represents the Euphrates. We can see that Eridu and the Eridu runes match up perfectly when we superimpose them. Another important mirror that the writers decided to incorporate into the storytelling and world building are the actual artifacts excavated from the site of Nineveh. We can see that the flower represents the flower of life motif found on many items, as well as the piece of pottery. Now that is very important to the overarching plot because it delves into sacrifices. Now, this is a culture of sacrifice. In ancient Mesopotamia, it was very common to put 7 Apkallu figurines into a piece of pottery to make an offering to the patron god of the city you lived in. The connections to ancient Mesopotamia go as deep as the gameplay. Here is a picture of the game, the royal game of Iirc. I feel it has a striking resemblance to the HGD, but I could be wrong. Now that we've established that the game has integrated ancient Mesopotamian culture and mythology into the gameplay, world building, and overarching plot, let's look at how it affects the main plot.
Not gonna make it. Just tell me. The monster in the monument. What is it? Okay. Consider it your last wish. It's called a sacrifice.
I do feel that this is an allusion to all of the sacrifices that Gilgamesh goes through after losing Enkidu. I also think that this could have many layers and also be a type of foreshadowing for a sacrifice that one of the siblings, whoever you pick for the main character, will have to sacrifice later on down the story. The future sacrifices that the main character will have to make leads beautifully into my next point. We need to talk about the time travel aspect. We got a little glimpse, a little foreshadowing with the rewind symbol and the type of shop that they own. We can also see it in the lost items from the old capital. The crystal door lets them time travel, but it's actually just a giant crystal. What if I told you that there was actually a time travel crystal tablet called the Tablet of Destinies in this ancient Mesopotamian mythology? I'm not messing with you. Let me show you. So Ninurta, the god, realizes that Apsu has the Tablet of Destinies and decides to shoot a bow and arrow at him to be able to attack him to get it back, yada yada yada. Well, because Apsu has the Tablet of Destinies, he's able to turn back time. So the arrowhead turns back to stone, the reeds turn back to trees, and the feathers turn to birds and fly away. I love this myth because how creative is that? We're already seeing the plot points to go back in time, which was very rare at this era in history. Most of the time travel stories that we find from ancient cultures do move forward in time, not backwards. The Mesopotamians are very unique in that way. To wrap everything up in a neat little package, we can discuss how Assyrian, Akkadian, and Sumerian culture and mythology integrated into Zenless Zone Zero will also be the thing that facilitates its connection to the greater Honkaiverse. The imagery of the imaginary tree is heavily repeated throughout the HIA and Luminous Square. We also have to take this in the context of the date palm tree being massive in the lives of the Apkulu. If we look at Professor Iirc as Oana, then we have to assume that this is the connection to the greater Honkaiverse and how Zenless Zone Zero writers are choosing to incorporate it into MiHoYo games. I could be wrong, as always, so let me know what you think. If you got this far, please, I would appreciate a like. Also, I have a video on the Greek mythology of the inciting incident and how it relates to the AIs. If you're interested, there should be a little thing on the side. Hopefully it's on the right side. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Have a wonderful one.